two, three.
Free information about entrepreneurship and mindset and all that. So let's get back to our topic today. So let's talk about probiotics. And, even though I mentioned that we've had this topic on the show several times, we have new listeners all the time. So let's talk about what exactly a probiotic does, how it helps with the gut brain connection, and then talk about specifically how the mood how the mood part of it fits in to that little puzzle.
Sure. So, because I do mention that we have mood probiotics, I like to also share that it doesn't mean they're not also helping with digestion. So, when you go get a regular bottle of probiotics, you're assuming they're going to help you with digestion. And so there's that aspect to it too. But by researching these very specific strains, I was able to find which ones specifically can help with the neurotransmitters that we're all craving. So generally, we've always thought serotonin is the happy hormone and chemical, but the more I learn about these neurotransmitters, it's not so direct. It's not so clear that maybe it's just these ones that we need, but really it's the whole nervous system in harmony. And so by supporting your gut brain connection with specific strains of probiotic bacteria, you're really just enhancing that natural flow of your body, that good bacteria that was already in there, but maybe has been depleted by various things, our fast-paced life and various things that are sprayed onto our foods. It's not always good for that.
Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind, Transform Your Life radio podcast and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Sylvia Hall, founder of Lifted Naturals. And Sylvia and I are going to be talking today on the topic gut-brain connection. Can probiotics help your mood? So this is going to be a new conversation for you, our listeners. We've had lots of content on the show regarding probiotics of themselves. But Sylvia is going to get into what probiotics does, and then we're going to branch off and talk about how probiotics can help with your mood. So I look forward to this conversation. Welcome, Sylvia.
Thanks for having me, Myrna.
You're very welcome. All right. I'm still tickled by that beautiful sound you've got there.
Well, my fellow
Sounds like I'm
co-founder
on the
brings
radio.
Yes, well, my fellow co-founder brings the aspect of technology. So I'm more of the visionary, dreamer, creative, and he's the very grounded, detail-oriented tech guy. So he's got me there.
I gotta go get that microphone. It sounds like you're a radio DJ. Amazing. All right, so let me give you guys a brief introduction. Sylvia Hall's journey is one of resilience, purpose, and a deep commitment to natural wellness. After experiencing her own postpartum and mood challenges, she sought natural remedies to help her feel better. Her research led her to the gut-brain connection, but she couldn't find a mood-supporting probiotic that met her needs. So she created her own. Lifted Naturals was born with its first product, the mood-boosting probiotic, carefully formulated with top study strains for mood and stress support. Today, Lifted Naturals has grown from zero to over 1 million in sales, helping thousands find natural relief with a range of mood support supplements. Awesome. All right, so we're going to dive right in. So, Sylvia, I understand from your bio that you started your probiotics journey after experiencing postpartum mood changes. Can you share your story about your postpartum experience and how you found, the probiotics is going to help? Because I would never have looked for that solution there.
Yeah, thank you. So I like to think of myself, people call me like the mood probiotic lady, but really more than anything, I was a mom that was frustrated, exasperated, and knew I could do better. So I was struggling to show up as the kind of mom I knew I could be. And I do say postpartum mood struggles, but these weren't my babies were no longer little bitty babies. They were toddlers, preschool age, and it's been a long road of learning about our body and how we can support our hormones and mood naturally. But for a woman after she gives birth, it actually takes 12 years to remineralize her body.
Mhm.
So when I say postpartum, I could be talking all the way up through 12 years of age for a child. And I know that just sounds wild to us. Our society and culture is like maybe 6 weeks max, and then, well, now you're done and move on. Are we still
Or
talking
do you
about
get
this?
back to work?
Exactly. And that's the cultural thing. And that was part of my struggle. I was a very lonely through that time of my life where I was doing my best. I knew I wanted to be home with my babies. I knew it, but it was literally the hardest thing I've ever done. Much harder than starting a business, much harder than any of these things. Just being home with those kids and trying to be the kind of mom I knew I wanted to be, but wasn't feeling the support in my body. And so, yes, I went on a rampage of looking for better solutions. And it was when I discovered the idea of the gut brain connection, it was like the whole page lit up, or I got goose tingles, like that feeling of truth, like being led, a guardian angel type experience of this is it. This is something, this is a missing piece for me. And it was through that research of like, okay, gut brain connection. This just rings a bell because I'm someone who struggled with mood issues and also have digestive issues. And so that's one of the top questions of like, how do I know if I could benefit from a mood probiotic? It's those two tango that are working together as far as mood and digestion. If you're struggling with one, the other, or probably both, then you probably would also benefit from a mood probiotic, much like myself. So yeah, that key term popped out on the page to me, the gut-brain connection, and from there I began to just research different strains of probiotic bacteria. And that was a really key component that I learned was that there's a classification of probiotics. So there's the genus, species, and strain. And the strain is the very hyper-specific type of probiotic bacteria that is known to help with various things. And so I was looking for these different strains and typing them in as far as doing my research of how can they help with mood, how can they help with stress, how can they help with those neurotransmitters that we all want. And it was from that experience that I was able to narrow down like these are all the ones I want. And that's when I just started picking up the phone and calling different manufacturers and saying, "Can you do this custom formula for me?" It was very clear, the way was lit up for me as far as like this is the move that I need to make. So that was like 8-ish years ago.
Amazing. So you have a scientific background because not too many people would decide to, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make my own probiotic unless you were in that field before. You were a pharmacy or a tech
I'm so
person. I think you said your husband was an engineer. How did
Yeah,
that come together?
I'm so glad you asked that because I'm absolutely not a doctor, chemist, biologist. I'm none of those things. I am what I called a woman scorned. So I was given solutions for my mood issues that made me feel worse and that made me frustrated. And so it was from that place of like, no, there has to be a better way to feel better. Don't give me these options that zap my creativity and my sensuality. No, thank you. It was like a frustration that emerged. And so I just really like to shout out that I am not a genius. I feel like it's more important than anything that people hear me say I'm a regular person. Now we have at our manufacturer a lab team, chemists, people that I run through all of my different ideas and they're able to help me with the claims that we are able to put on our label and that sort of thing. And so it's really to me a testament to this idea that you don't have to be somebody you're not. And you don't have to be good at everything. We go to a school system that grades us on 7 or 8 subjects, and we're expected to be good at all of them. But the truth of the matter is, most of us aren't. And whenever we're really good at everything, we usually don't lean into our gift. And so, my gift more than anything is creative problem solving. I saw a problem and I was ready to solve it. And I was very aligned with my vision and values of being a very loving and happy mother. And so, from that place of knowing I absolutely deserve better and want to feel better, and if I can find a solution, then I'm going to help other people too. And that's that entrepreneurial side that I've always had as well.
Well, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, wow, this is not an entrepreneurial podcast. But you talked about mindset before we started the recording, and I'm thinking this is such an encouragement to a lot of people. And the only one I can think of when I'm sitting here listening to you is that movie with that girl that, did the mop. She
The
created a
mops.
mop because she was tired of, having dirty mops, and she created one that you can put in the washer. And there was a whole movie about it because, Jennifer Law, played the movie. But it is amazing. They always say that in order for you to be an entrepreneur and get a patent, find a problem and offer a solution. But I mean, I'm glad I asked you that question because most of us think that we've got to have some biotech engineering background or entrepreneurial or what. But you're a mom and you wanted to feel better, and you said that you were great at problem solving, and you decided to have a solution. This is not an entrepreneurial podcast, but anybody that's listening, listen, don't ever, count yourself out, or don't ever say that you can't do anything, because in the bio, you heard me say that, Lifted Naturals now is doing $1 million, right? Starting from scratch from a mom that just wanted to feel better. So that's just a little aside, but that is great.
Thank you.
I'm always such a person that encourages people. And I would tell my daughter the same thing. Hey, so you have a problem, solve it. And because she's pretty good problem solver. That's what she does in her job. But that's a
I
good thing.
feel like when it comes to this idea of like, oh, it's not an entrepreneurial podcast, I just would challenge every single listener. If you're interested in mindset and if you're interested in taking charge of your life, to actually become the boss of your own life. So
Yeah.
I think every single one of us needs to be an entrepreneur, and not by starting a business, but by really looking at ourselves as the main character or the main boss lady, the main person who decides our own fate. So to me, that really is a distinguishing moment when we step into the driver's seat of our own life. And yeah, as I mentioned to you before we started recording, before Lifted, I was growing a practice as a life coach. I was working on mindset nearly exclusively, and yet I did find myself frustrated because I was working so hard on mindset. And what I've learned since then is that really mindset is a very important piece of the puzzle, not to be forgotten, not to be dismissed. It's so important. And along my way, I found other pieces of the puzzle, like the gut brain connection, and by supporting our mood with probiotics. And there's other aspects. I feel like we get so hung up on food and diet. And yet, from what I've seen, the light diet is something that we're all missing and we're all very confused about. And so, by consuming more regular daylight and consuming less nighttime blue light, we can reset our biological clock and our hormonal clock of stress. And so, yeah, there's pieces of the puzzle, and it really can be simpler, not more complicated. Even though as I speak about it, it's like, oh my gosh, there's puzzles and there's pieces, and do we start with the edges or the corners? Um,
It takes a lot to create a product.
yeah, yeah.
Especially a product that has to be probably, sanctioned by the FDA. I mean, it's different. I mean, I used the analogy of the girl that created a mop, but that's a much easier manufacturing process than a probiotic. So that's great. I want to circle back to what you said a minute ago about the everybody is an entrepreneur, and the mindset. Because yes, as a life coach, and the way I work my life as well, because you got to walk your talk, is one of my favorite quotes. And things that I live by is that as you are the lid, you can grow as high as you are the lid. So yes, I mean, even founders or yourself, like, or people that start their own business and have CEOs managing it, the company can only grow as high as the lid that the CEO puts on it. So you are the lid. And right, yeah, so you didn't have a lid. You said, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to find something, I'm going to create it, I'm going to bring it to the market, and you're promoting it right now, so you're growing. And yes, there's no lid. So you're right, you are the lid. Don't put yourself in a little box, which is why a lot of people say think outside of the box and things like that, because you don't want to put yourself in a box. Your box should have no lid. So that's beautiful. So that's a little free information about entrepreneurship and mindset and all that. So let's get back to our topic today. So Let's talk about probiotics. And, even though I mentioned that we've had this topic on the show several times, we have new listeners all the time. So let's talk about what exactly a probiotic does, how it helps with the gut brain connection, and then talk about specifically how the mood, how the mood part of it fits in to that little puzzle.
Sure. So, because I do mention that we have mood probiotics, I like to also share that it doesn't mean they're not also helping with digestion. So, when you go get a regular bottle of probiotics, you're assuming they're going to help you with digestion. And so there's that aspect to it too. But by researching these very specific strains, I was able to find which ones specifically can help with the neurotransmitters that we're all craving. So generally, we've always thought serotonin is the happy hormone and chemical, but the more I learn about these neurotransmitters, it's not so direct. It's not so clear that maybe it's just these ones that we need, but really it's the whole nervous system in harmony. And so by supporting your gut brain connection with specific strains of probiotic bacteria, you're really just enhancing that natural flow of your body, that good bacteria that was already in there, but maybe has been depleted by various things, our fast paced life and various things that are sprayed onto our foods. It's not always good for that microbiome. And so, by clarifying that, yes, our mood probiotics are still very much tied to help with digestion, they're just also targeted to help with our nervous system, support, cortisol, all these things. And so, by selecting a probiotic that also helps with mood, what I've found is why wouldn't we? We're all living these fast paced, stressed out lives. And so, if you can take a probiotic that is able to help with both, why not? And so you really do just have to understand the difference of the strains. And you don't have to understand the difference per se, but just respecting that difference that every probiotic has that classification. And if you don't know which classification it's in, then you may not be getting the support that you could be getting.
But I wanted to start from the top because people don't know what a probiotic is. So let's start.
Okay. Sure, sure. So probiotic is just good
Let's start
bacteria.
from what a probiotic is and what's a normal probiotic and how when we add the mood part of it, what happens. So
Sure.
yes.
So probiotics are good bacteria. And you can get good bacteria, additional good bacteria, by simply consuming probiotic rich foods. So you can eat yogurt, kimchi. There's a yogurt drink called kefir or kefir, depends on how you say it or what you want to say. Um, Kimchi, yeah, there's different fermented foods that are probiotic rich and they deliver an abundance of very good for you probiotics. There's a complication in there that a lot of people don't understand that I'm going to introduce now, which is that when you do consume probiotic rich foods, you're taking in a whole bunch of different probiotics. And sometimes those probiotics can be histamine causing. So if someone is dealing with a histamine intolerance or a histamine sensitivity, they may not tolerate those probiotic rich foods very well. So they may say, okay, I know I need probiotic rich foods. I need to replenish my good gut bacteria. But yeah, every time I eat it, I get a headache or I get some congestion or I get itchy. So these are signs of a histamine sensitivity. And so the benefit of taking a probiotic specifically in a supplement form like we offer, we have four different probiotic formulas, is that they're very specific hand selected strains. And so you can kind of like avoid that histamine issue by taking a very specific select strain. So, you've determined that you would benefit from some probiotics. I actually am going to go counterculture here and say don't take a probiotic supplement. Maybe just incorporate some probiotic rich foods into your diet. And then from there, if you're someone who's like, okay, but I'm not getting the mood support I want, I am having a histamine issue, then you're going to want to look up Lifted Naturals because that's what we're here for. And I really do believe so much that the best things in life are free and that health is actually in reach for all of us. Like I said, getting outside, moving our body, breathing deeply and expressing gratitude. Like these are all free ways to feel better. And that's the premise of our company. It's feel better naturally. And so I'm very passionate about that. It's not just about, hey, buy my product, oh, we got some here, we got some there. Like that's not it. It really is a deeper passion of wanting to help people. And there are some people that very much benefit from taking a very specific formula. And like you said, we are talking about supplements, things that you take. So it's not just like I'm making this at my home. Of course, we have a GMP certified manufacturer that's in an FDA approved facility. So
Right.
the FDA does not regulate supplements, but they do approve facilities for making the products. And so when you buy a product from Lifted Naturals, it is made here in the United States at our GMP certified FDA approved facility. And we have a process of when the raw materials come in, we test them. Whenever they formulate the final product and it's finished, they test them. And so to me, that high standard is the only thing I could put my name on. That's like uh, you know, supplements are, there's so many, they're everywhere, right? And you just don't know what you're getting. And so when you find a brand like ours that's willing to say, here's our process, here's how we test, here's what we do, to me, that's really important. Like you said, when you're consuming a product, for it to have the highest integrity standards. And we do that.
Okay. All right. So now let's talk about the gut-brain connection. Because yes, so we know that what you mentioned, that a probiotic helps with your microbiome and the good bacteria. And if you have bad bacteria, I mean, you're right, you have digestive issues, you have bloating, you have gas. But the one of the things that the probiotic does, it kind of helps with that, like a leaky gut kind of thing, and things that are passing through the gut brain barrier. So let's talk about what your product does as far as to the body, and explain why the gut brain connection is so important before we get into your strains that help with it.
Sure. So the gut brain connection, I think the best, simplest way to put it is that the gut is talking to the brain and the brain is talking to the gut. And that is why they refer to it as two-way communication. So whenever you have an upset stomach, it's very often there's a connection and a communication between that. It might be more than just something you ate. This is deeper than even just your regular probiotic chat, but when you've had an emotional upset that truly upset your stomach, that's your brain making sense of the world. It's a meaning making machine, and your perception of the world shapes it, and that sends messages to your gut, and your gut is talking back to that brain. So it's all about the two-way communication. It's not just a one way. It's not like the gut just tells the brain what to do. They're literally chitty chatting all day long. And so when we understand that they are in communication back and forth, forth and back, then it makes even more sense that we would want to support that communication with the specific strains that have been shown to help with nervous system support, calming neurotransmitters, and just creating harmony in our microbiome. So hopefully that is a simple and yet direct enough explanation of that gut brain connection.
Okay, so that's great. All right. So we've talked about the specific strains that your Lifted Natural has as far as the mood stabilizers. But for instance, I take a probiotic right now that has what 10 billion cells, whatever, of that. And then you talked about yogurt, which has the Acidophilus strain. So what is added to your products that makes it work with the brain waves, or I think you mentioned a couple of things with serotonin and central nervous system. Yeah, that's what you're talking. Because normally it is just basically affecting your microbiome and allowing you to have good digestion. So what are you guys adding? And you mentioned earlier that your product does both. So
Yeah, it's not about adding anything at all. It's actually just about the added benefits. So when you're taking a probiotic that's just digestively focused, it may or may not support your mood. In fact, it may even put you into less of a good mood. And that's based on what kind of bacteria you need versus what it's providing. And so a lot of times people will say, oh, my teenager needs this or my kiddo needs this. And we say, absolutely, talk to your healthcare provider. Our bottle says 18 and under. Please talk to your provider. But there is actually nothing about our products that makes them kind of in a category of serious mood support. It's simply that microbiome support, that gut brain connection support, because of the specific strains that have been shown to help with stress. So in this modern world, I can't think of anything else that we all need a little bit of help with is just how to manage that stress. And what's wild is our lives have gotten easier and easier as far as less and less likely to be chased by a tiger or eaten by a bear, to be exiled from our community and to be alone and die in the wild, right? This is less and less likely. This is very low likelihood. And yet, our brains, our meaning making machine, are continually receiving so much data, so much information, so much stress that we feel more stress, I think, now than ever before. And so it's not what's actually happening, it's our perception of what is happening. And because of our modern world and our access to information and technology, I think we're more stressed than ever. And like I said, it's not because truly there is a threat, but that's, as my grandma would say, neither here nor there. So it's more of the perception. And so we have this perception of threat, of stress, and that puts our nervous system into a state of lacking harmony. And so by supporting your body, your gut brain connection, your nervous system with these specific strains, you're simply kind of hitting this reset button. And so my top tip for actually I have two main tips when it comes to probiotics. And the first one is to go slow when you first start. So if you take a full capsule, you might be overwhelmed with that good bacteria and it could cause some digestive upset. And if you're already a little bit sensitive and then you take something and it makes things worse, you're going to be upset. And we don't want you to be upset. And so we always say go slow when you first start. And that allows your body to get time to that new good bacteria. And kind of going back to your question, our formulas are just probiotics or probiotics and prebiotics. So we have two that are a symbiotic, which basically means it has that pro and pre all in one. And then we also have two that are probiotic only because we've had customers say, I love prebiotics, but they don't love me. It leads to a lot of bloating. And that can be something you don't want to do is add more of that. So, back to this idea that there's nothing inherently in them that is causing you to feel better. It's actually just putting your body into that state, that natural state of harmony. And so, the top tip, go slow when you first start. And then the second tip, I promise two tips, and this one's really important too. And that is to pay attention to how you feel when you take our probiotic or any new supplement or any new thing. My top tip is just to pay attention to how you feel because going back to that idea that we're all so busy and we're all so frazzled and we're all running around, so much to do and so little time and we try new things, maybe multiple new things at once, and then it's really hard to know what it's doing, if it's doing anything. And so, whether you're taking a mood probiotic or not, I would pay attention to how it's making me feel because just because it's not advertised as being mood supportive doesn't mean it might not have some strains in it that are, in fact, mood supportive. And so, yeah, hopefully that's helpful and useful to understand a bit more about how, these mood formulas are actually working.
Okay, so that's great. So I like that. So basically, it's just the strains that you guys select
Mhm.
that can do both things. Now, you introduced a new information there about prebiotics. Just assume that somebody that's listening to this doesn't know what
Sure.
that is. So can
Yeah.
you talk about what is the difference between a prebiotic and a probiotic? And
Yes.
normally, I was always told that you separate them but you're combining them.
Yeah.
So why is it that you guys did that?
Sure. So probiotic, once again, is that live bacteria, and prebiotic is simply fiber. So fiber feeds the good bacteria. So the good bacteria is looking for something good to eat, and that fiber comes along, and that probiotic bacteria is like, oh, that's tasty, and then it grows. And
Mm,
so you would think, well, that's clear as day. Just we need tons and tons of fiber, but that's not necessarily true. And there's different types of fiber. So once again, the prebiotic fiber is food for the probiotic. So whenever we first formulated our very first formula, it was mood boosting probiotic. That continues to be our top seller. It has 9 probiotic strains and the prebiotic GOS. And I included this type of prebiotic because it was the top studied top studied type of prebiotic fiber that had been shown to help with stress and how the body handles stress. And so I knew I wanted to include that. And so whenever you put those two together, it's kind of like a synergistic effect that you're getting the benefits of both, plus you're amplifying the probiotics, which are being fed by the prebiotics all the way through the digestive tract. But like I said, there's been customers who have reached out to us and said, I love this formula, but I don't tolerate the prebiotics very well. And so for that reason, if you're somebody who's had some pretty serious digestive troubles, or had to wipe out all that bacteria and you're needing to reset, sometimes adding that fiber can just cause problems. And so that's why we wanted to have a couple of formulas that were probiotic only. And so that is the main reason is because if you're already struggling digestively, sometimes adding a whole bunch of new stuff, probiotics, prebiotics, it can be very overwhelming.
Oh,
So the probiotic bacteria, prebiotic fiber, they do a little tango, but sometimes you got to slow down the tango. And in that case, you might want to do just a probiotic, and that can be very replenishing for someone who's been struggling with digestive issues. Because those are, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. If you're struggling truly with a lot of digestive issues, your mood's going to improve if you can get rid of those digestive issues. Now, that's not
yeah,
what I'm talking about when I say the mood benefits. What I'm literally talking about a lightening, a loosening, a stress alleviating impact of the probiotic bacteria. But man, oh man, if you've been down that road of having digestive troubles, that'll impact your mood big time. And so by helping from all the aspects, it can be a very beneficial supplement. And I do want to say real quick too, it's called a supplement, right? So it's supplementary to all the other amazing things that you're doing in your life to improve your life. So it's not a magic
I like
pill,
that.
so to speak.
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
that because a lot of people just like to pop a pill and they don't think they need to do anything else. So I like that. All right. So, one of the other things you mentioned stress, but when I was researching your company, I came up with some information on cortisol reducing mood boosting probiotic. You mentioned that your product has that. So, how does, I mean, when we talk about cortisol reducing, we're talking about, that stress hormone that you keep mentioning, but also when you have reduced cortisol, it helps you sleep.
Mhm.
So is one of your benefits sleep? Or talk to us about this specific cortisol reducing, mood boosting probiotic.
So I wouldn't say just one formula really does that. It's all about modulating the neurotransmitters that are impacting cortisol. So, your cortisol is a stress hormone, which stress is not always bad. Stress keeps us alive. It helps us to move from across the street so the taxi cab doesn't hit us. That's a good thing. And yet, if we're constantly feeling like a taxi cab is going to hit us, even though we're on our couch, even though we're in our bed, even though we're in the bath, this is not healthy. This is our system signaling, I don't feel safe. And so the pretty much all of our supplements, we have a magnesium complex that is helpful for modulating those neurotransmitters, helping with stress, helping with cortisol. We have a mood mushroom complex that has several different supplementing mushrooms that have been shown to help through antioxidants and adrenal gland support. That's kind of how the mushrooms are known to help with cortisol. But pretty much everything that I've created, it's based around this idea of natural mood support to shift the body into that feeling of safety and where it can replenish itself. I believe the body is a healing machine. You don't have to tell your heart to beat. You don't have to tell your lungs to breathe. Life itself is life force. And yet, because of our modern lifestyle, pace, frazzledness, I've found these supplements are very supplementary to get back to that healing, harmony, peace-filled life. So to me, it's that shift towards feeling better. And this is the perfect time to really share one of my biggest platforms of truth, which is that so often we get stuck in a cycle of chasing healing, chasing the symptom so we can feel better, so we can finally feel better. We're so tired of feeling this way. And yet we get stuck in the cycle of it becomes our identity to chase the healing, to chase the symptom. And really, what are we here to do? It's not just to chase our own tail. I believe we're here to create and use our gifts in a big way. And so for me, the Lifted Naturals brand and movement is simply an example of that. I had a problem. I thought I could solve it. I did. I wanted to help people. I love to make an impact. I'm doing it and I'm going to keep going. I started another brand. It's called Honeypot Publishing. We've got joy journals. We've got minimalist coloring books. I'm not going to stop making things. I'm going to keep creating because that's what I'm doing with my health and my well being. So every coin is two sides. And I think a lot of times we get stuck on the side of dis-ease. And the other side of the coin is health. And I'm just encouraging everybody that once you get that coin flipped, once you create momentum in your life towards what you want, keep going towards what you want and don't just get caught chasing your own tail, trying to chase symptoms and chase healing. Okay.
That's
As
the
my
light
grandma
bulb's
would
coming
also
up.
say, pass the collection plate. That's what my grandma would also say.
Well, you know something? You just said something that's just piqued my interest. I mean, we've been talking, like I said, I had several probiotics companies on the show. I'm, using one brand right now. And this particular brand, it's a top brand, and they have a prebiotic, they have a probiotic, they have well, that's the only two I take from them. But from what you were talking, I take another supplement for adrenal support. I take, all right, and I get magnesium from them, right? But you just told me that you have a product that incorporates all that. So I think this is a time for you to talk about, you said you have four products, tell us about them. And that's really interesting. You're talking about mushrooms, you're talking about adrenal support, you're talking about nervous system support, and then you're talking about gut health. I love it. I am, you just convinced me to start trying your products. That's beautiful. So let's
Thank you.
talk about them.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to confuse. So we do have them separately. So we have a magnesium complex, we have a mood mushroom. These are separate from our probiotics.
Oh, okay. I thought
Yes,
that you said
they
they're
are
all in one
separate.
bottle. Okay.
No, no, no. And the reason I wouldn't want to do that, so it's definitely been tempting to like, we'll put a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but because I cater to more sensitive individuals, because I myself am a sensitive individual, I like it to be kind of in its own section. So you can take a probiotic for this, you can take our magnesium for that, and we do our best. Affordability is a top priority for me. Being a small company that we are, we don't have a lot of middlemen that we have to pay or middle women. Instead, it's really just my husband and I making these key decisions, and then our manufacturer that we get everything from. And then, if you go to liftednaturals.com, you can clearly see that we want you to shop where you want to shop. We'll direct you straight over to our Amazon store, or you can shop directly from us on Shopify, which is, our own online platform. And the reason I share that is because so often people will say, well, you're a small business. Why are you sending people over to Amazon? But after you pay for that Prime and you get used to that quick shipping, we know that's what customers expect. And so we really want to keep our customers happy. Being a customer first brand to me will eventually win in the long run, even if it's not as obvious at first. Now, we do have customers who say, I don't like Amazon, I'm not supporting them. And we say, more power to you, buy directly from us. We love
Very
that.
few, I'm supposing.
What's that?
Everybody's
Very
got
few.
Amazon. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it is a small handful, but
Right.
we love that passion that they bring to the table. So we do have four different mood probiotic formulas, and then we have a few different additional supplements that are all mood supportive. I mentioned the magnesium complex, the mood mushrooms, and then we have actually a micro melatonin, which is a very, very, very low dose melatonin that is helpful if you are dealing with jet lag or simply some hormonal changes. For us, when it came to creating melatonin, we wanted to make something that was the lowest dose possible to have the maximum effect. And so by creating a 100 microgram dose, we have customers who take 1 to 3 capsules a night and find that perfect medium. And it is really that subtle and gradual that you can say, I love the way I feel when I take two, but three is way too much. And someone who's taken 10 milligrams of melatonin at night says, what are you talking about? But you will find actually that melatonin can be used in a very selective way for the nervous system support as well at a very low dose of micromelatonin. So, what started as a mood probiotic lady and mood probiotic company, I've branched out since then to create a couple of other things that I felt like really continue to help from that feel better naturally standpoint, but addressing it from another angle. So, sometimes people will find us through our mood probiotics, take a couple of bottles, start to feel better from that, and then decide just to keep supplementing with our magnesium or our mood mushrooms. So it's very individual. Some people continue to take the probiotics or rotate through them. It's very individual as far as that goes. And it comes back to paying attention to how you feel when you take it.
All right. So I'm confused a little bit because, so let's say that I've got gut issues, so I need a probiotic. right? We know that it's good to feed the probiotics, so you need the prebiotics, whether you supplement it or there's foods that are prebiotic foods. So what would make me, because if I'm getting your mood probiotic, the one that you've selected all the strains, why would I need the mood mushrooms? And what's the adrenal support doing?
hmm So, first of all, if you say, I've got gut issues, so I need a probiotic, I think you need to check your stress levels first. Okay. So, I am not your average supplement hawker here. I'm not saying take this, take this, take that. That's not what I'm here to do. I really am here to just bring a loving awareness to our body's natural harmony. And so, if you're someone who's struggling with gut issues, I would say take a few deep breaths before you eat. I would say a moment of thanks before you eat to slow your body down. I would say make sure you chew your food really well. That's the first step of the digestive process. These are all tips to help with gut health. And in addition, if you just have some slowness, constipation, or you continue to have gut troubles, yes, I do feel like a probiotic is a good supplement to all of those things. When it comes to why would you take a mushroom versus a probiotic? Well, really, there's people that are very sure I'm good with my digestion. I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to take a probiotic. I'm going to the bathroom every day. I eat what I want. I've got no trouble, but I'm a little bit stressed. Um, or
Got it.
uh, yeah, so it's really a very individual type of thing. And there are people that like to combine them and that sort of thing, but I always say start slow, go with one at a time, and then you can incorporate them in. But it really is just an individual preference of, and there's added benefits of each thing. So magnesium is responsible for over 300 enzymatic processes in the body. So if you are low on magnesium, it's going to impact a lot of areas of your health that maybe have nothing to do with digestion. And so you're going to steer more towards that one. And then as far as our mood mushrooms, it really is great for immune support. It has other antioxidants, and you might look up these different mushrooms that are in our formula and say, "Ooh, those look like some benefits I would like," and you'll go towards that. So it's really just about creating very high integrity products that support people. It's not about take every single one of our supplements or else. That's that fear-based model
Okay.
that I'm not interested in. It's more about how can I
Okay.
support you? How can you feel better? Maybe some of these things can help. Give it a try.
Okay, I love that. All right. So I was assuming, I'm glad I asked the question. I was assuming that you take you're combining them all together. Like for instance, like I just said, I've got magnesium, I've got the probiotic, I've got the adrenal support. These are the things that I supplement with. So what does your adrenal support do? Because this is a new term for me that I just found out about it and I just started taking adrenal support. So this question is really for me. And a lot of women that are in menopause, I understand need adrenal support. So talk about what that is.
Well, I simply mentioned that our mushrooms have specific types of mushrooms that have been shown to help with adrenal support. So
Oh,
reishi is a mushroom, and that
okay.
mushroom has studies, and the studies show that it can help with the cortisol production and help to support your adrenal glands. And so it's a very broad term, kind of like leaky gut or gut health. Adrenals can be supported in various ways. I would say another one, the top, like everyone hears about adrenal burnout. And that goes straight back to stress and how you're being in the world and in your body. And so a lot of times we think, oh, I'm going to rest. But if your phone is in your hand or the TV's on, it's not quite rest. Now, it might be entertainment. And girl, you deserve that too. We all deserve a little entertainment, a little fun, a little scrolling. But the problem is, a little scrolling becomes a lot of scrolling. And then we're feeling less energized than we were before. So, to me, a redefinition of the word rest and what that really looks like is required when we're looking at cortisol, stress, adrenal burnout.
I like it. I like it. Okay, well, that's good to have a rounded product line. So I like what you said that right, if you're not having a problem with gut health and you're right, being regular, I take it because if I don't, then I'm not regular. So I need
Yeah.
probiotics, right? But for someone that, like my husband, doesn't need any help there,
hmm
right? So, but if you have that and then you're kind of stressed, then you take the mood mushrooms. So I'm definitely gonna try that because I've heard the mushrooms are very good. I tried cooking them and all that, but I really don't have it in my diet. And I know that mushrooms are very good. So, that's what I will start off with. All right. So
Awesome.
as we wrap up, tell our listeners how they can, I think you mentioned it already, but it's good to say it again here because that's
Sure.
normally the place we put it. What's your website? How they can keep in touch with you. What's your social media handle? If you guys are in social media, they can follow you and get some more information.
Yeah, so liftednaturals.com. And on that website, there's an opportunity to sign up for our email list. And that is the absolute best way if you want to keep hearing from me and to hear more of my insights and wild opinions. The website email newsletter is the absolute best place that I'm consistent. And then we do have some social media presence on Facebook, Instagram, that's at Lifted Naturals. We're a little less consistent there. As I mentioned, the experience of scrolling, it's like I don't want to contribute to the noise. This is adding stress, and yet, I'm a business looking to connect with new customers. So it's a little bit balance of a dance that I do there. But liftednaturals.com is the absolute best way to start.
Yes, of course. And then you mentioned the fact that they can, find your products on Amazon. So that's great. All right. Yeah. So I learned a few things today. That's basically what I love to do when I interview someone to learn a few things. And I learned a few things about the different strains of probiotics that helps with stress and helps with, cortisol and all the other things that adrenal support. So that's great. I love a company that it sounds like you're almost catering to women's health, that the different parts of the things that women go through. But so I love that, and I will definitely give you guys a try. Are you offering any coupons or anything for the listeners?
So if they do go to our website, then sign up for that newsletter, which is my favorite way to stay in touch with people, you get 15% off in our shop. So that email newsletter. And then as far as the women, our products are all designed for women and men. And yet as a woman founder, woman body, woman experience, I do share a lot of insights for how these are helpful for women. We're living on a 28-day cycle, whereas men are living on a 24-hour cycle. And so I just feel like a little bit more of a message to support that various structure of life. To me, it's very needed. And so I'll continue to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell when you talk about the adrenals and you talk about the stress and that kind of thing. I could tell that it was a little, you know, um, biased towards women's health. So I love that. But yeah, I mean, we can, men can benefit, of course. Nobody wants to make a product just for women, but it's tweaked for women's health. So that's great. So I'll definitely, and I'm glad I asked you about that because people like coupons. So
Yeah.
you need to mention that.
Very true.
So
Thank
they
you,
get
Myrna.
2 for 1. They get a newsletter that shares new things about health, and they get 15% off. So that's great.
Yes.
I love that. All right,
Awesome.
guys. Well, yeah, this was a great conversation with Sylvia. We incorporated a lot of things in here, not just about the gut-brain connection. As a life coach, she, talked to us about how we can live naturally and how we can, supplementation is good, but remember the main focus that you can, take a walk, stop scrolling, rest, digest, all these different things that instead of just popping a pill. So that's great. Great conversation. I will have a summary of my conversation with Sylvia on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I will link out to her website and link out to her social media handles so that you can follow her. Thanks again, Sylvia, for
Thank
being
you.
on the show. And as we wrap up, any last words?
I just feel like that reminder that it's inside of you. So the answers, the pulse of life, the passion, the creativity, it's all already within. It's just about remembering. So don't forget
Yeah. Your body knows how to heal itself, right? And
it.
so that's when I meditate. That's what I said. I says, hey, I know you know how to fix this.
Yep.
So go do it.
Thank you and more, please. Yes.
Yes. All right. All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life. If you have any comments on this conversation, as far as living naturally, as far as your experience with probiotics and prebiotics, would love to hear your comments. You definitely can comment on YouTube, or if you want to comment on my social media posts, it would be great. So thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, Sylvia, for being on the show. Until next time, namaste.